as you earn, whether farm as an accountant or a consultant, and they provide you data that is not in a CSV ready for export. That's because maybe they don't have a dedicated payroll management system like all those great payroll management systems that exist. If the company does their payroll management in Excel, so they provide you with data and you have to prepare a CSV to upload into KRA. This video is for you. Now I'll quickly open what we have here. So we go to my folder, and then I want to open this because that's the workbook. Now this is the workbook. When you open it, you probably go straight to employee data, but you should start from employer profile. This is where you will provide your name. For example, this is a cutout from a system we were building for some other firm. It's not called P10 Limited. That's an imaginary company. So let's say your company is called Paycent Limited. And everything else remains the same. So you provide the data here, as you can see. Then you'll go to the employer data. Now that you see that you have the name there, and then you have staff payroll for June 2026. You can change that. This is changeable. It should be okay. I think I'll set June somewhere. So we have payroll number. So of course this is a data entry sheet. So you see that there's nothing closed here because this is what will determine how many rows we have. Now we've limited this to 100. So there's a black block up to 100, but if you have 200 you can just extend. The sheets are protected so that you don't mess with the formulas, but they have no password, so you can just unprotect them. Now if we go to KRA profile, which is where we profile our users in terms of what the P10, the simplified P10 wants, you see that we have a black section. It's a black block all the way to 104. So if I go all the way to 104, I'll see that big black block, which is okay. I think I did forget something, but it's okay, just fine. I should have done away with. Let me just do that. I don't think it looks really good with the grid lines and the headings. I don't need them. So that's how that looks like. It's a block. We also go to the next sheet, which is payroll data. I do have that block because for now it's just a conditional formatting that will tell you there's no data. But if I provide data on the employee sheet, for example, I need the payroll number, the first name, the last name, the surname, the gender, the department, the title, KRA PIN, ID number, phone number, bank name, account number. Those will be used for payslip and P9 and all those. So I do have some data that I used, and I'll just copy it here. For you, you have to provide the data, but for me, I'll just paste the data because I had some random data. So it's that. This is up to 20. Now you see that if I go to payroll data, I only have 20. There is still that black box somewhere, which is okay. And then 20 is a small number, so we're not going to do tests for 20. I go back to employee data and then Control Z. Now get my data because I had this data up to 100, and I would like that we use 100 for this tutorial. I shall go to documents and just choose this one because that's what contains my data. Now by default this will be converted. I would like it not to convert so that I have my data as is, and then I would like to select everything from here. So I'll hold down Control Shift and then go left, I think right, and then go downwards, and I have all the data, and then Control C, and then I can now come and paste my data into the other Excel sheet. I don't want to import that using Power Query because I don't want to encourage you to be importing. So then I'll just, no, I need to paste special. So I'll do 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Now I have my data, that's 100, and I can see that there is no blocking, a black block anywhere in here. So once you have your data, so for you, you would have to write it or maybe provide it. So the employee data is a universal sheet. You do not delete data. Once you provide the data, we will always use that. The others are clearable because salaries change each month. That's the work. That's your work as a payroll manager. So the resident status, this is a drop down. So it's going to be either resident or non-resident. Now, mostly, actually, for this tutorial, we'll stick to resident. If you have an non-resident individual, also ensure that those things you are not supposed to remit on their behalf, you have blanks or zeros respectively where that is needed, so that you don't have a problem when you upload the CSV. If you have been filing, you understand that. The type of employee, we will stick to primary employee for this case. Again, if you have secondary employee in this part, you know that there are places you do not need to fill. There are things you cannot remit on behalf of secondary employees. So do not fill those, otherwise you will receive an error. Now, persons with disability, the default for me will be no, because we don't expect so many people to be disabled, but we expect some inclusivity for them. So I'll give number 3 a yes. I'll give number 2 a yes. You can see that once you do yes, the exempt certificate number part opens up. So if you have this I don't know which color is this. The background behind resident status, it's I don't know that color. But if you have that color, it means it's a drop down you have to select. And if you have this other color that's somewhere between whatever the color behind exemption certificate number, that means that it's a drop down, but it will depend entirely on what you have on the previous row. So we can set, let me just add another guy here, simple yes, and that's okay. Now exempt certificate, we will provide that. I don't know, you will have to provide the right certificate because you will have it. For now, I'll just say exempt 001A, and then this is going to be exempt 001, exempt 001, let me just do exempt. I can't have the same exempt certificate number, so let me write that as exempt 002V, and then we will go to this other guy and give him an exempt certificate number of exempt V234A. I think as long as you have a text that is less than 20 characters, it will be okay. If you have a text that's more than 20 characters, it won't be able to upload. You'll have a problem. Then the type of housing for this one by default is benefit not given, so I'll set that and then drag that down. For you have to provide it, so not just drag down, but you can drag down these ones and change those that you provide houses for. So let's say employee number one has a house benefit of 24,560. That's okay. And I also like to give this guy a house. Let's say his employer's rated. So the housing, you will have to calculate it. I didn't calculate it, so it's simple, but I didn't want to include it in this version because I felt like that would you also need to work on that. So if you want to work on such a system, if you want to include the housing benefit, what you will need to do is you need to have the gross pay. You will need to call gross pay because you need to compare that. So if it's an employer's owned house, that is simply you take the maximum between 15% of your salary, 15% of your total income, and compare that to 15% of the market valuation of the house, the proper market valuation of the house as approved by the commissioner. And then if it's an employer's rented house, we have to compare between them. We take the maximum between the rent paid, the actual rent paid, and then 15% of your income, and also 15% of the fair market valuation of the house. Now, if it's an agricultural provided house, agriculture farmhouse, it's 10% of your employment income. That's what they will just use as a housing benefit. So you can incorporate that into your system. We can do that. For the system that we built, that was included, but for this one I felt like we will not include that for whatever reasons. So I also give this guy housing benefit from employer's owned house and set this to 89,000, just a bit higher. It's not real data anyway. So those are the only guy who want to have a house. Now for car given, by default this has to be no, do not leave it blank, or mostly people get no. And I will want the first guy to have a yes, so that we see how that handles. And so this is car ownership. Now for the ownership part, you will tell us whether you hired the car or only. The difference is if you hired the car, at the value of car where you have to provide, just calculate the valuation of your car. If you hired it on annual terms, calculate that in terms of monthly. If you hired it on monthly basis, just write whatever you pay per month. If you have hired it for 5 years and you paid, calculate that in terms of a month and then give us that as the value of car. So for hire, let's say the cost of hiring this car is 43,200, then that is going to be the value of the car, but you will need to select the car here first because we don't want to leave that blank. Not that it is going to be passed to any, but we just don't want that to look like that. Then I'll set this 2 years, and this one I want it to be owned. Now let's say we own this one, and we select. Now the reason why this selection is written this way is because they are rates provided by the commission for how to value a car. So assuming you have your car valuation being something like 100, so most of the time you'll get that 2% because here they take 2% of the valuation of your car. You provide the value of your car and then they do 2% of that and they pass that into the value of car benefit. But if you find that 2% of the value of your car, let's for example do a pickup, no, a Land Rover, which I know is 72,000, and let's say the value of that car was 280,000. Let's just use 28,000 for that sake. So if it's 28,000 as the value of the car, which is you won't rarely find something like that, then we take the maximum between the valuation of the car and what we're getting here. So that is how you calculate the value of the car. Now you will calculate and pass that into the system. So you select this one. So remember to select this one exactly. What car you have. I think all cars are handled here, or if not, you select any that you think is closer to that, and then provide the real valuation of the car. Let's say this car is valued at 3.2 million. This will need confirmations from the commissioner or whoever they send. So ensure you get the right data here. I think those are enough cars. You can add another car here probably. Let's do another owned car, but we can't see that because we didn't set this to yes. So we select that yes, and now we have a white, which means we can enter our data. This will let me do a pickup below, but the value has to be 1.2 million. So let me just add an 7 at the end. So we see that is that. So that is all about the KRA profile. You will be done with everything. Remember, we handle this. You can model your system in a way that you handle all calculations on another sheet, and this is just data. You can also take all this KRA profiling data to the employee data. It depends with how you will want to do it, but this is how I wanted to do it. It's entirely how the client whom we built the other system, the automated system, wanted it done. And so I just copy it there. And then we go to payroll data. Now for payroll data, we see that we have all those. So this data is coming from what we passed into the employee data, and it's also borrowed some from the KRA profile. Now we are ready to go. So for these are allowances. You can set them the way you want. For me, I'll just do a standard value here. Let me say My commuter is 6,234, and I'll set that for everyone. And also my housing, let me set that to 3,500, and okay, let's not do that. Let's say 7,123, and I'll just do this. I'll just copy that along. Is that along or across? Along, yeah. So I'll have the medical allowance. I'll do 0 here because not everyone receives medical allowance in a month. Very few people receive. Now live, I'd like this guy to receive 5,600. So randomly, for you, you'll have to provide this data as you provided because it has to be real data. But for the basis of this tutorial, I don't want it to be long. I'm not going to enter that data one by one. So I'll just make a few changes. So this is 23,000. Now for something else, I'll go back to employee data and let me find the first manager I find here. Let me see the first manager. So the first manager I see is this guy, and I would like to increase his basic salary to 1 point. Yeah, 1 point. So I'll need a few, and I'll have this guy to have 600. Let's see, this is a project director. He receives 340. That's okay. Let me make this 940 so that we have a spread band. 940, and then there's this guy receives 35. I'm going to just take that down a little bit to 15,678 so that we have all bands represented. So that I think that's okay. Now go back to KRA profile. It's okay. I do have my data so that we have proper bands as we go. Now that looks fine. I'll do hardship. Not everyone receives hardship, so I'll set this to 0, and I'll probably give 2 or 5 guys some hardship allowance. This guy receives 15,000 hardship allowance. Randomly, this guy receives 15,600. Then maybe give this guy 8,900 allowance, and that's okay. Now let's say overtime, there was a few guys working overtime, so I like to do 200, 2,000, 4,500, 0, 7,800, 6,700, 0, 0, 0, 0, 5,600. I'll have to give this a 0, proper 0. Yeah, that way. And then for the rest, I'll just do 0 and drag that down. For you, you have to provide. You are not going to have 20, so you can enter. If you have 20, you can just enter the value. You can use the forms to fasten how you enter your data. I hope everyone knows how to use the form. So for the meals, we'll just have a few cases because we know we have 2,999 is okay. Then I'll do 4,999. Then I'll just have one being 5,000, which is the threshold. Then I'll do one that is 5,001. Probably two 10,000s here, and that's and then the rest I'll do 0. So for 0, I can just copy. Now for non-car benefit as well, there's a 5,000 threshold. So this guy gets 0 there. This guy gets 5,001. It's very important. This guy gets 4,999, and this guy gets 8,000. I'll give this guy 3,200 benefit, and probably give this guy 12,000, and give this guy 16,200. And this guy will get 0, and this will get 0. This guy will get 0. So all this part of data entry is overall. That's what you do, and you can see that we are only entering data in cells that have blue backgrounds on their headers. That's the sign that you need to enter the data. Otherwise, if you see a gray Even if you tap there, you see that it is locked. You can't enter data there. So that I have locked that, but usually that's not enough. So there's also the color coding part. If you see black on white, that means the data is coming. It's not probably a number, but it's being calculated. Now, other benefits, I set that to 0 all through. The other thing I need you to note is if you try to build this on your own, you have to see that on the housing benefit, if I don't have a value, I've left a blank. That's because that is demanded in KRA as you upload your system. If you get zeros there, you won't see. If you have benefit not given, you have to leave that as a blank. Do not include zero there. Just ensure that if you don't have a value for housing, you leave that as blank. Now for NSSF tier 3, think I'll do zeros through. The others are calculated as you enter your values, and maybe give this guy a contribution of 8,900, and I'll probably give the other guy contribution of 4,500. That's okay. Now, other pension, we will have guys contributing to other pension. So we won't be checking whether it satisfies the maximum allowable deductions from somebody's salary, but we'll just get them so that we see how the formulas work. So the for other pension, I'll do 0 all through. Then I give this guy, I don't know, this guy has a lot, so I'll give him 34,500 on the other pension, and probably another guy here. Let me give this guy a pension contribution of 16,567. Yeah, that's done. Post-retirement medical fund, I'll also give this guy, because he receives more money, you can see that his gross is enough. So I'll give him 16,700, and this is 12,300. Then the mortgage, I'll leave that to 0, and I'll do that. So the others are specific formulas. How do you calculate the total cash pay slash the sum? I'll make a little talk about how we calculate the taxable gross, this part. So the taxable gross is the summation of the total cash pay. Add that to the value of car, and then you add that to anything that's above 5,000. Now the threshold is provided in a sheet called configuration sheet, which is hidden. So you will unhide it and see all those. So the formula there is simply the sum of this taxable cash pay and the value of car benefit, and then there is an if statement to check whether this value is greater than or less than is greater than 5,000. And if it's greater than 5,000, then we take the difference between this value and 5,000 and add it to the taxable as a taxable income. And for non-cash benefits, we check if this value is above 5,000, and if it's above 5,000, we pass that value as a taxable income. Otherwise, if it's below, we pass 0, and then we add the housing benefit and we add the other benefits. So that's how you calculate that. The others are simple. They are rates calculated. This is just a multiplication of rates. The way you handle NSSF is if you check whether the employee earns greater than the employee earnings are greater than the lower limit for NSSF. If they are greater than, then you take the summation of the maximum allowable tier 1 deduction, which is 540, and you add to the minimum between the maximum allowable value in tier 2, which is 6480 for now, against what? Against the difference between the employee's tax and 9,000 multiplied by the tier 2 rate, which is 6%. So that's how you calculate that. You'll see the calculations if you open the sheet. I'm not talking about the calculations in this video. It's just a tutorial to show you how this functions. Now, post-retirement, I need to set this to zeros. Otherwise, I'll have problems. So if you don't have post-retirement contribution, set that to 0. The only place you're supposed to leave a blank is, I think, the housing benefit, and that is handled for you. So the others, if you don't have anything, just write there 0. Otherwise, you'll have a problem as you try to upload your CSV. And you see that we have everything else calculated. You will also need to calculate the total relief. I didn't calculate that, so you'll have to calculate, because it's part of what really comes out as tax. The way we calculate this tax is the formula is there, simple mean and max plus sum. We didn't use fancy formulas because we want this to work in those lower versions. It can work in Excel 2010, just tested it. Now, I'll not provide these, but you can provide them if you really need the net pay part. For me, I'm not going to provide them because I don't need them. I'm not going to do pay slip generation today, so I can't have this. But should there need be, I can just I think I even locked the cells, so I just unlock those cells and give me the data. So I won't do the data there because I already have my data for P10, which is the main concern for this video. So because we already have the data, we can go to our P10 sheet and see if we have the data. So we can check and see that we have some data here. So let's see that every place that requires us to provide that data, we have provided it. And like I said, ensure that for housing, where is housing? If you have a benefit not given as the type of housing, ensure it's blank, so that is okay. We have provided all exempt certificates for people with disability. So anywhere we selected that, we already have that. Now I think I have all the data. So if after you ensure you have all the data, you just create CSV. And you will be told how many rows have been exported. Obviously that is correct because we had 100 users, 100 employees. So you can just upload, hit OK, and now we go and open the other KRA sheet. Yeah, so after that has been created, I had to pause the recording a little bit. You have to now go and confirm. Remember we saw, let me just create another one. So I'll hit create. And I'm told that 100 rows have been exported. It tells me where that file is located, so I'll just go to documents and check for P10 CSVs and select June 2026. This date 1957, which is the time, so I know that that is my CSV. Now after that I may need to close. I think I can close this one. After that I'll need to go and open the original let me just do away with that and get to payroll. Now I'll select P10 upload, which is the simplified one. This is the simplified one. Do not worry about that name. You can just download this from KRA. I just renamed it because I've been using them for some job. Now from here, first thing you have to do is to provide the name. So I say I do not have a client we're filing for, so I just use a random code. Let me hope that's okay. Present employer's personal identification number in proper format. So I might have done so many zeros. So this is P00, again 00, again 001A, because it has to be 10. Yeah, that's now fine. The type of return, you'll select original, and then the entity type, you'll obviously say whether you're doing for branch or head office. That's okay, and then you can go to next or simply go down and scroll there, and then we'll hit import CSV. Now we know where our CSV is located is in P10 CSVs, and we'll select that and select the latest one, which is this one, and then click open. Now if we do not have any errors, you will see that means there's no errors, so it's just loading. And so there was no errors in terms of the CSV importation part because we ensured that. So always ensure that you have the right data. Usually this error comes from if you're trying to do it on your own, if you have this done, you either did not provide exempt certificate for a person with disability, or maybe you went on the value of housing and try to leave that as 0, when you selected benefit not given. There's also another error if you do agriculture farm house. I think you don't need to enter data here because they use 10% of your total earnings. So check on that always. That's for people who provide houses that are agricultural farmhouse. Now, the other thing you have to do is to check your taxes. So for me, I'll check that my taxes are okay. So I can see that the calculated tax is 2145.51, and also my self-assessed tax is 2145.51. Here I can see it's 339.67.59, 339.67.59. So after that, you'll come all the way down here and just confirm that you have the right value for tax. You don't have a very differing. So I can see that I have 3,320,395.92. That is what is calculated from the systems Excel. What I have is 3,320,396.00. So that is a rounding of error, which is, it's actually 0.08 out of 3.3 million. That's an acceptable error. It's less than 1 shilling. It's actually less than 10 cents. So it's okay. Do not worry about that. That's just a rounding off error. You can proceed with this. But if you see this being 20, the difference being 20 shillings or anything greater than, if you see it being, the difference being greater than 1, then you should be worried. Although not really much, but if you see the difference being 10,000 or the difference being 100 or all those, you need to check your system. So that means that our calculations and what is in the KRA system is all fine. The other thing I wanted to talk about is this part. If you try to recreate this and you're following it, the KRA has a problem with the way they define the taxable. So let me just go to, you can see that the taxable pay is labeled O, and they say it's G minus H plus, open the bracket, I plus J, checked to a maximum of 30K. So if what this basically means is if your NHIF plus other pension contribution total to something like 31,000, then we will flag that to 30K because that is the only allowable allowable deduction from your taxable gross. Now, the thing is, I wanted to talk about where KRA had an issue. I think whoever wrote this had an offset error of -1. You see that they say it is G minus H, and that G, if we check for that G, we see that G is actually what? So if I check for G is other benefits. So there's no way this will be other benefits minus the gross way, because that's what they say. This is H, so you cannot take other benefits and subtract H. You'll get a negative already, because this was a summation of other things. So when you try that, you'll get a negative. So it's not a system error. The calculation is okay because their calculation is done by VBA. It's a custom function, so it's not a formula. If you try to open this workbook, if you try to get the password and do the workbook opening to understand how it works, it's calculated by a VBA function, a custom function. So the calculation is okay, but I just have a problem with the definition of what the taxable pay is. It's not G minus H, it's actually H minus I as you go. So there was that, I like to call it an offset error of 1. Otherwise, that was not one of our concerns anyway, and that's a very small issue. So if you are a sucker for perfection, you can tell KRA to change that to something that is reasonable. It gave me a hard time while I was trying to figure it out, but I did understand because I knew what I was aiming for. So that is okay. Now that we see that we have this, we go to tax due, and we see that we have 444 for housing levy. But if we go to our sheet, we'll see that our total housing levy on the payroll data with our housing levy is 222. So what happens is KRA auto matches, because it's simply one-on-one. It's 100% match. So if you have 222, 117 here, KRA will match that by multiplying that by 2, and that is what you see here in our that's what you see here in on our tax due sheet. You see that we have 444, 206. The other thing is the pay as you earn tax deducted from the employees without PIN. Now this is white, but under normal conditions, KRA does not expect you to fill this, because there are so many ways employees can get their KRA pins. Even using a passport, you can get a pin. So you don't have a reason whatsoever to use this. But should there be whatever reasons that warrant you having to pay employees without pins, maybe you don't have proper KYC measures, or for whatever reason somehow you have to pay an employee without a pin, then this is where you enter that value. Otherwise you'll have a problem with auditors. And then on the total housing levy contribution, you see that it's a calculated field, but it's white, which means you can enter data. So what that means is, if you, in case you enter the value here, let's say I had 60,000. No, I'm using the wrong part. So let's say I had 60,000 for employees without a PIN. Then that means that I need to add a total housing levy contribution. So you can only add these two values. You can only add. So let's say now that takes me to 467, 890,000. But you cannot try to add a value that is below 444. Remember, this was 444. So if you try to enter value less than 444, let's say 324,000, you see that the total housing contribution can only be greater than or equal to total employee contribution, and that will reset. Now here we have 100 employees. If we try to do 98 for levy, we will get that, and it will reset to 100. So that can only be increased. You cannot reduce that. So that's what that does. And then you will validate. And after validating, you will see that sheets are ready to be uploaded. Do you want to generate a upload file? You will then generate the file. And then from there, I think if you have filed these returns, you know what to do. You log into KRA.itax.go.ke and upload this file, and then you get the receipts and the invoices. Actually, you get the PRNs. Yeah, so that's how you do it using Excel, for those who don't have a dedicated payroll management system. Now this is non-automated, it's in the name. There isn't so much automation, just that I didn't want you to copy the CSV, because sometimes when you copy the CSV, people tend to forget a few other things. So like I said, if you want to use this, or you want to use it to learn, I have locked all these cells, but you can just unprotect. There is no password needed. You can just hit unprotect, and that will be okay. So I think that's just that.